Hi everyone, time for your week 10 wake up call. Here's your list of things to do this week. So you have a chapter in your textbook, The Academic Writer, chapter 10. There you have some page numbers, so please make sure you read those. Those are going to help you with the annotated bibliography assignment. And that annotated bib is due on Wednesday. Last week you had part 1 of lesson 3.3 discussion post, and so this week you are finishing that up with part 2. That's also due Wednesday, so please post that. And then the research draft of your paper is going to be due on Sunday, so make sure you get that in by the end of the day on Sunday. And there's a little bit of a hint that this is the last week we're working on this research project, and next week we'll be moving into what's known as the multimodal project. Here's the module for this week. So at the top you'll see the overview of all the material for this week. I put in a little link here to annotated bibliography instructions, and that just gives you some detailed instructions about how to put the bibliography together. But I'm also going to tell you some more about that in just a minute here. And then the next link, the annotated bibliography assignment, that has the button where you're going to submit that assignment. And there you have lesson 3.3, that's part 2 of that discussion post. And then the bottom one is where you turn in the draft version of your research paper. All right, annotated bibliography. I'm having a hard time saying those words together today. I feel like I have marbles in my mouth. So a bibliography, you've seen dozens of them by now, and it really is the list of references, sometimes called the works cited, that follow an article, maybe a journal article, and it just gives the reader information about the source of the facts or statistics or whatever the author used in that article. So a bibliography is just the list of sources. When it's an annotated bibliography, it includes a summary or an evaluation of each of the sources. So it usually includes at least one paragraph, sometimes two, that give you more information about that particular source. Now, there are whole published books that are nothing but an annotated bibliography on a particular topic. If you find one of those on a topic that you're researching, it is a gold mine of information that you can use then to find the sources that you need. But in this case, you are going to create an annotated bibliography that has at least as a minimum the 4 sources that you used in your research paper. Here are the steps that you're going to go through in order to create a really good annotation. So the first thing is you're going to summarize that article. Some annotations are just summarizing. That's all they are. So questions like, what are the main arguments? What's the point of this book or article? What topics are covered? If somebody asked you what it's about, what would you say? And sometimes the annotations are really quite detailed and lengthy. Sometimes the summary might simply be, 2 or 3 sentences. It kind of depends on, how in-depth or even how long the particular article is. The second thing you're going to do is assess it. So after you summarize it, then you're going to evaluate it. Was it useful for you? Now, I know at this point, if you're putting the annotated bib together on Wednesday, maybe you actually haven't even really dug into that in depth as far as your research paper. But you should have a pretty good idea. Is this article going to have useful information for you on your topic? How does it compare with the other sources that you found? I know some of you found what looked like really good sources, but then when you look at the publication date, they might be 20, 25 years old. And depending on the topic, that might be a little bit out of date. And so I urged you to find a more current article on a similar topic. And so that could be a point of comparison, that perhaps the more current or newer article is a little more up to date, has slightly different information than an older source. That's just an example. Is the information reliable? This is huge. So I know you've heard me go over this many, many times. You really need to zero in on the authors. Who wrote this? Who reported it? Who is the researcher? Who created the study? What are their credentials or qualifications? And you know what? You might have to do a little bit of digging to find that out. Let's see, is the source biased or objective? Okay, a lot of you did an excellent job of looking at that and being able to discern that. But it's a matter of looking at the credentials of the writers or the person who created the study, and maybe who funded the study, to just see if there isn't at least the potential for some bias. Let's see, reflect. So once you've done the first two steps, you need to ask how this source fits into your research. So now you're relating it all back to you, what you're trying to accomplish. Was this helpful for you? Did it have good, useful information, or did you think it was going to be really useful, and then it didn't turn out to be quite as good as you thought? How did it help you shape your argument? How can you use this source in your research project? And how has it changed the way you think about your topic? All really, really good questions. I know that's a lot to think about how you're going to fit that into one paragraph. Honestly, I don't mind if it's 2 paragraphs, but it all really needs to be included in that annotation for each source. A couple of weeks ago, you had a link that led you to some information on the MLA Style Guide. So just to refresh your memory, MLA stands for Modern Language Association. Style guides are created to help people who are publishing work create a consistent format, consistent citations, really to help their readers. The MLA style is what's traditionally used in things like English and the humanities. So that's why we're using MLA. Down the road, you might have other classes where you are asked to use a different style. And that's okay. All you have to do is look it up and see what you need to do. So here's what an annotated bibliography looks like when you're following the MLA style guides. So it has to have a title that says either annotated bibliography or annotated list of works cited. You're going to create the source first, the same as if it were, a citation in or an entry in a works cited page. So things like the author's last name, the date that it was published, who published it, the title of the article, all of those things. And then after that, you're going to put the annotation. Here it says annotations typically should not exceed a single paragraph, but as I said, I'm more concerned about you getting all of that information in rather than, trying to jam it all in one paragraph and then leave out important stuff. Annotations should be indented 1 inch from the start of your citation. Double space all text on the page, so don't single space that annotated paragraph. Everything is double spaced. And then 1 inch margins, which are the default for Word, so don't tinker with those margins. Please organize the annotations or the entries alphabetically. So typically it's the last name of the main author. So look at those names and put them in alphabetical order, please. And here you have an example of what that would look like. So there you have the title, Annotated Bibliography. And there you have the entry. So we have the person's last name and their first name, and then we have the title. This is a book, so it's italicized. And there we have the publisher and we have the date that it was published. And then you see that that paragraph is indented even more. So it is pushed in 1 inch from that line. So see the name Forsyth, imagine that there's a vertical line going down from that F, and that paragraph is indented 1 inch from that. You see everything's double spaced. I'm not going to read this for you. If you do, you'll see that this example is just a summary. It's telling what this book is all about. And remember, you are doing a little bit more than just that. So there you have the annotated bibliography. If you have any questions at all about it, please drop into office hours on Tuesday or leave me a question under the Ask the Instructor discussion post, and I'll make sure I get right back to you. Okay, look for the link to Zoom office hours in the announcement, and have a great week.